A frequency distribution is a valuable statistical tool that helps businesses to manage their operation. Using Excel, you can manipulate the data in a frequency distribution quickly and get very accurate results that will help you. Let's just take a look at one example. Imagine you as manager of a local supermarket where your goal is to maximize sales and profitability of your store. To do that, you decide to adjust the shelf space in the store so as to make sure that the most popular items get the most space. Your first step to accomplish this is to record the sales so as to have accurate figures on the sales. Once you've got the facts, in this case the statistics, you're going to be able to decide what to do. Let's roll down and take a look at the blank statistical table that's listed. Our first step is going to be to populate the yellow column with some data, and once we have the data, we're going to be able to manipulate that to show how a statistical approach can be used to managing the space in your store. Once we have the numbers in the first column, we're going to total them up. The total we get will represent the total sales in a 30-day period for all of the different brands of peanut butter. Once I've used the statistical numbers, you'll be able to see what position each one of the brands has in the store. This now shows that on a 30-day basis we sell 1,402 jars of peanut butter. But we want to understand what is the relative position of each of the various brands. To do that, we're going to divide each one of the numbers, in this case 432 was our first number, by the total amount of peanut butter jar sales we have in a 30-day period. And we're going to do that and freeze that 1402 so that we use it in each one of our calculations. You'll notice that this column is expressed as a percentage, 30.81. Once we have that, we're going to be able to fill that data down to all of the rest of the rows, and so we have now populated the second column. I've shown these as percentages, but recognize they could just as easily be shown as decimals. Same information, just shown in a different format. Once I have the relative frequency, I'm going to calculate the numbers in the blue column, cumulative frequency. What that is just what the name implies. We are going to accumulate the data of each brand until we account for all 1,402 sales. So the first column will be the 432 for the generic. Our second column is going to equal the 432 for the generic plus the 99 for the gourmet. Once we have that second number in, we can copy down our information to the rest of the fields. And you'll notice that when we get through, the bottom number equals the 1402, same number that was at the bottom of the yellow column. The last column is the cumulative relative frequency, and this one is going to be expressed not in percentages but in decimals for no other reason but to show you the difference. So the first one is going to equal the relative frequency by itself of the generic, which is going to be 0.03 or 0.3081. The next one is going to equal that number plus the 7.06, and then once we have that, we're going to be able to roll that down to the rest of the fields. When we complete that, we will now have the table filled out completely. Now we could use that table just the way it is to make our decisions. For example, it shows us that the generic sales were almost 31% of our total sales. We want to look and verify that we've allowed about that much space in our shelves so that we're able to maximize the sales that we're getting on that particular brand. Many people prefer to use a graphic representation of the data rather than to just use the numbers from the table. So let's illustrate how you would do that. If you go to the top, the green ribbon on the top, you'll see one of the choices is charts. If we click on charts and then click on pie chart, well, actually before we do that, we want to highlight what we want our chart of. So let's take the brand and the frequency, highlight that, and then select our pie chart. We'll select the first one on the list, just a regular 2D pie chart, and it'll display, and let's drag it down below the data so that we could look at that in relationship to what we have above. Now once we have that, you'll notice where the arrow is moving along right now that we have several different chart layouts that we could use. Let's just select the first one and show it to you. When we do that, the individual brands appear in the wedges and the percentage of the total sales that they represent show up. As you can see, there are several other options that we have, but that's a pretty good one to use, and it would help us visually to see how our shelves should be laid out. We could also delete this chart, which I'm going to do now, and decide that we are going to insert a different kind of chart. And the different kind of chart that we would use in this case would be a bar chart, actually a column chart, so that we would be looking at the bars vertically as opposed to horizontally. And to do that, I'm going to again highlight the brands and the frequency that they represent on the actual chart. And then I'm going to go up to the ribbon where you see column chart, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to select the first one. Now we have a frequency chart which is shown as bars on a chart as opposed to listings in a table or the pie chart. Once again, we can select one of the different chart layouts to show our data. Same data, but sometimes it's a little easier to read. Let's take, for example, this one. This one is showing the actual sales on the top of each bar. This is strictly a matter of personal preference. The important thing to realize is that we're organizing the data and we're presenting it to ourselves in a way that we can analyze it and decide to make changes in how our business is being run.